Thank you for joining us for Elko Live today. We appreciate your being here for today's radio show. And today we're going to be getting an update from our local lawmaker in Assembly District 33 alongside our Elko County Treasurer. In fact, Cheryl Paul has brought with her today Bert Gurr, because I know, Cheryl, first of all, you and your office and the 16 other county treasurers throughout the state are very grateful to our lawmaker for his representation in the session. So welcome.
Thank you.
If you wanted to. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Bert. It's great, again, to have you both here today. And we're going to get an update first on AB 133, because, again, Cheryl, this was an important piece of legislation for you and treasurers around the state.
Yes. Did you want to?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to put out there that there's been a lot of misconception about where the money from AB 133 comes from. And it comes from tax sales, not property tax. So when we have our tax sales, the minimum bid represents the back taxes, penalties, and interest. Everything above that would be considered excess proceeds. And this AB 133, basically what it does is the excess proceeds are held in an interest-bearing account for 1 year. And after that 1 year, well, let me back up. I want to use an example. Let's say the sales price of a property is $75,000, and the taxes, penalties, and interest were let's say $1,700. So $1,700, anything above that is the excess proceeds. Right away, we don't have to wait a year. $1,300 of that goes directly to the general fund. And after 1 year, the remaining proceeds, approximately $72,000 of that, this AB 133 would allow $3,600 going to the Treasurer Tech Fund, while the rest of that would still go into the general fund. But it's not property taxes. Tax sales fluctuate how we do every year. And I think it's going to be a great thing.
And this technology fund, again, it's enabling legislation for the county treasurers throughout the state, so the 16 other treasurers as well. And I guess, Cheryl, before this legislation was passed, signed by the governor, it would be that each treasurer would have to go individually to their county commissioners to get some sort of support for technology?
Right. So Elko County, for example, when we switched from our legacy system, which was ADS, it was from the early 90s, late 80s. We switched over to GSA, and the assessor's office has had a tech fund for many years. They get that from centrally assessed payments from the state. So without the assessor tech fund, the treasurer side of it wouldn't even have been able to be paid for if the assessor hadn't stepped in. We wouldn't have had anything. Another example, when I took office in 2019, I took it upon myself to start digitizing all of the tax rolls that are over in Mike's office, the recorder's office. And it took me 5 fiscal years to budget to get from the 1860s to 1984 completed, but we still have 4 decades of data. And I did just get a capital projects request for the current fiscal year that I can start working on that. But it's something that's priority, because those roles, they can be very easily damaged, and it's important that we keep that record. You can't just lose it.
Wow, that is impressive. Again, going back to the 1800s to get those records digitized, we're talking about people's property. So it's very important to have that when you're buying, selling a home, for example.
Definitely, definitely.
So Cheryl, that's a great illustration of what tech fund proceeds could be used for, again, accomplishing AB 133. Just an example, well, so if there's a delinquent property, I'm thinking of the city council recently discussed the Elko Inn, and they owe about $70,000 in property taxes, right?
Right,
Yes.
right.
So if that property were sold, say if the city were able to pick it up for the money in arrears, or some other entity, or the I guess the people that currently own it came in and paid their debt, the tech fund would realize some of that.
Yes. Well, if it went above the minimum bid.
The minimum bid.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just delinquent proceeds will go directly to.
They have to go to pay the taxes on the property first.
Okay,
And then if there's anything left over, then it sits for a year.
that's what she talked about. Okay,
And then in that year's time, it can still be recaptured from
Anybody
a
that-
legitimate owner.
Yeah,
that has
anybody that has
title
a
in it.
lien.
Lean
Yeah.
on it. Okay.
So that when it's all done, there's not a lot of money left at the end, but 5% of what's left after all that gets to go to the treasurer's office.
Right. And as she was talking about, how much do you think it will take to accrue, or what will it cost, Cheryl, to digitize some 4 decades of records remaining?
I'm waiting because, like I said, it took me 5 fiscal years to get that. And now I did get word that the cost is going up in August. So I need to start checking on getting some bids to find out what we can do to get it done.
But, I mean, we're talking could be thousands or tens of thousands of dollars.
Roughly every year for those 5 years, it was about $25,000. So, yeah,
So it all adds up.
it does add up.
So, yes. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Based on this last tax sale that we had in the spring, if there are no claims made, which in a real world not going to happen, but if we don't have any claims for the most current sale, it would be about $13,000 for our office. Some counties, I mean, we are very lucky to have the number of parcels that we have. Some counties only have 1 or 2 properties every year, depending on where they're at.
Wow. So, as you said, about how many parcels do we have just in general in Elko County? I mean, people may not realize that.
We have over 50,000 parcels, and my office, since I have worked there since 2002, we've had 4 employees. So 4 employees, including me, collect 50,000 plus tax bills a year, plus the other receipts that are incoming revenue for the county.
Well, that's impressive, Cheryl. And our Elko County Treasurer is Cheryl Paul. And I think that's a good segue. And obviously, Bert will come back to you to talk about the bill and comments on AB 133, because, achieving something like this is significant, and it does impact, again, the 16 other treasurers in the state. But Cheryl, with 4 staff, as you mentioned, the cost of things are going up. You might be tempted to add staff to your department, but you're looking at actually employing another way of people to make payments to save on staff time.
Yes, this fiscal year we're going to introduce a lockbox through our financial institution. We still allow people, to come in person to pay. We have drop boxes to pay. If you want to mail it to our office, you can, but on the back of the tax bills, we're going to be utilizing not a drop box. It's a lock box that's going to have a PO box address in Los Angeles, California. But I want to emphasize that the city of Elko, for example, has utilized a lockbox since 2013 for water bills. It helps my office with faster check processing. It cuts down on phone calls. You would not believe the amount of mail that we get once, everybody has something owing that 3rd Monday of August. So 50,000 tax bills go out, 50,000 payments are coming in. And that lockbox, when we're getting the mail in, we keep the mail in order as we get it to process it. And the lockbox will be able to do it a lot faster, process it.
And Cheryl, people can pay online, though, isn't that right?
Yes.
Electronically?
Yes.
Okay. So that's not going to change at all?
No, that's not going to change.
Okay. So the lockbox will be something new, and as you said, should be in time for the next cycle, say in the fall or spring?
We are going to have it on the back of the tax bill, so it will be effective as soon as you get your tax bill, hopefully in the next week or two.
Okay. So right away, coming up. So pay attention to that. And again, as always, it's a transition, so if people do have questions, Cheryl, they should reach out to your office.
Definitely.
Okay. Thanks for the update there, too. First time for lockbox for payments. But again, if you've used the lockbox at City Hall, it literally, you just drop the payment in there. And sure, it may take a little more time to process, but once you get in the routine, yeah,
Right.
it's done. So the last thing that we have on the list before we transition and talk to our local lawmaker is the Weed and Pest Abatement Board that had come before commissioners, I think, a couple of times, something our Natural Resources Director, Assistant County Manager Curtis Moore has been working on. Fair to say it's in the works, right, Cheryl?
It is in the works, but don't look for anything extra to be on your tax bill this year. I would look for that next year, and it's sounding more like it's going to affect all property taxpayers in Elko County, and it's not going to be a huge amount. I, for one, I live in the city. I'm not affected by the crickets, knock on wood, but I am more than happy to give that $5 or $10 or whatever that particular special assessment may be to get rid of those crickets.
And that's the goal of the Weed and Pest Abatement Board that, again, Curtis Moore and staff and the county commissioners are working on. It would be the assessment to property owners, like you said, all 50,000 parcels, city, county-wide, throughout the county. And the goal would be to to discourage, obviously, Mormon crickets and also to focus on some of the noxious weeds that have overtaken the landscape.
Yes, and we've seen that lately with the power getting cut. I think that's super important, and we got to do something about it.
Because, and what Cheryl's describing is weeds, noxious weeds, not only do they take over plants that we want and plants that are good for, grazing and other, but they become a fire hazard.
Yes.
So, yes. So that's something to look for more of in the future, and we can keep talking about that, right, Cheryl?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right.
Curtis can probably answer it better than me, but yes.
Thanks for bringing it, though, to our attention. Again, it is something that affects your office. Anything else? I mean, I know the last time we talked, people were still settling into, their tax bills, but that should have smoothed out by now, right?
Yes. You're referring to the rebill? Yes. We are confident that last year was completely outside the tax abatement. So, and it was only for the first year. So going forward, it's going to be part of just your normal tax bill.
And if you have a mortgage, it'll be massaged into that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
escrow accounts don't change. You should still get a bill even if your mortgage company pays it. It'll be what we call a green bill, and it will disclose on the front of it that a mortgage company has requested a copy of your tax bill, that this is just for your records.
Thanks, Cheryl. It's good information, and it's important, and it's clearly marked on there when you receive that this, don't pay this. It's covered, through your home loan. So, well, anything else, Cheryl? Again, other than I'm sure you'd like to turn it over to our local lawmaker to.
Yes, I would love to have Bert interject.
All right. Well, Bert,
Explain the process?
Well, yeah, because on June 10th, you did get to go with members of the Association of County Treasurers, and you met in the governor's office, and you got to celebrate the signing of AB 133. That's the Treasurer Technology Fund for each of Nevada's 17 counties, and that was a big step for this organization.
It was. It was a great process. Excuse me. But can I go back to the weed abatement bill?
Oh, of course.
So it sounds to me like they're just trying to work the bugs out of this thing.
Oh, boy. He's...
I was trying really hard not to do that.
Yeah,
but,
that's okay. He's feeling a bit fresh because he's had 3 weeks since the legislative session ended. And now that, with the dust literally settling, we can start looking at some of the legislation. But I know that, and you'll be back, Bert, we appreciate it. Wanted to give you some time to reacclimate to citizen life rather than citizen legislature. But there were 300 bills that were sponsored by lawmakers that ended up reaching the governor's desk. And it's significant. There were quite a number of bills that you worked on that you either were co-signed or that, and you can explain this process, or that maybe got merged into other bills so that they could be successful. But there's a lot of work that is behind this. And in fact, 2 of your original bills, you were saying something like 2.5 maybe, but 2 bills that were originally yours were passed and signed.
That's right, Lori. But let me go back to 133.
Please.
And start how this thing came about. I got contacted in November, December, before the session started. Is that about right, Cheryl?
Yes.
And met with some of the leadership of the Treasurers Tech Association, or Treasurers Association, not technology. And we went through it. And originally, it looked like we were going to have to call it a tax. So I went, I can't do that. But then turned them over to some guys that I work with to work it out. And they got back to me and said, no, we're not going to call it a tax. We got this worked out. So I went ahead and sponsored the bill. And going forward, as happened way too many times this session, Legislative Counsel Bureau, who actually drafts the language, drafted it wrong and put a 2/3 on that bill, which it wasn't. It wasn't raising a new tax. It wasn't doing anything except, as we said, but the way they wrote it made it look like they were taking money up front, which would have been taking tax money. So we went through that process. It took almost a month to get the amendment done on that. And we got that done. And then another amendment had to be made because some of the treasurer's offices stay open longer than 5 o'clock. So they had to change the law to allow them to stay open longer than 5. So we had 2 amendments on the bill before it actually got to be voted on. And it sailed right through from there. I mean, it was a great process. They had their president testified with me both times of the association. He did a great job and sold it to the legislators. We had to do it through the original committee. I think that was Revenue the first time.
Yes.
And then we went to Ways and Means the second time, and then it went over to the Senate side, went to Revenue there. I can't remember. It was Dean and Neal's committee, and it got out of there and went through their processes and passed out. Both houses got it done, and the governor signed it on the 10th. So it was a good bill to work on. It did take a little more effort than it should because LCB, I don't know what happened this session, but more bills came out of there messed up than, so you really have to read the bill that you send in to make sure when it comes out that it's what you intended when you send them the language. But this one cleaned up and it was good.
Thank you, Bert. That's obviously Bert's description of AB 133, which was the technology fund, again, set the behest of treasurers from around the state and their association. Funny that you should mention, too, how things change and that any mention of taxes or new revenue, that was a red flag during this session because we went into it early on realizing we just weren't going to have the money. So at one point, one of the most popular bills, and I know one that you were excited to champion about the pecan punch, that actually got morphed into another bill. But at one point, you were just saying that it almost got held up entirely.
Yeah. The pecan punch bill originally was AB 99. It was a 1-sentence bill. I didn't want to make a bunch of complicated issues out of a 1-sentence bill, but about but a month into the session or so, the Speaker of the House got a hold of me and asked me if I would run my bill into his bill, which was a liquor delivery bill. And he gave me about 18 hours to make that decision. When the Speaker of the House, who's in the majority, asks you to run a bill with his, it's probably a smart thing to do if it's a bill you want to get out. So made the decision to run it, read his bill before I made that decision, and it's a good bill. If you want to order a dinner from the Star and you want to order a pecan with it, you can do that now. Well, the county has to pass it first. I mean, it was permissive language that we passed that every county can make that decision whether they want alcohol delivery that way. But the intent of the bill is if you want a drink and it's okay in your county and they pass it and you order a drink from the Star, it's going to cost you 50 cents more to have that drink delivered to your house. And that 50 cents is, they call it a tax. It's a user fee, and it's revenue to the state. It's not going to be taxed to everybody. It's just revenue to the state. But because the way the Constitution's worded, even revenue has to have a two-thirds majority vote out of both houses. So we fought with that a lot, and it finally, the governor's team didn't want me to vote on my own bill because it was a two-thirds bill. And I'd never signed the tax pledge that says I'm going to not vote on anything that says two-thirds. I didn't lock myself into any of that. So when it turned out, everybody got around it and got behind it, and it was a great process. Governor, he signed the bill. I wasn't there when he signed it, I guess, but who knows. Anyway, we're going to try and have a ceremonial signing on Sunday at the Bass Festival, or picnic. The governor was trying to get here. He couldn't. He's sending a representative, Chase McNamara, with ceremonial signing pins and the ceremonial copies of a bill, and we'll do it there right between Mass and the picnic. So it turned out to be pretty good. And the DUI, the drink part, the money goes into the DMV for DUI education and to help with the interlock devices, help get more of those out there. So it's ultimately a really good bill the way it turned out.
So obviously one to follow and see. It should show up, as you said, on a county commission agenda. Can't imagine that in this county there'd be any problem passing such a thing.
I wouldn't think so, but
right.
Yeah, it's going to have to be passed by the county. I'm not sure who's going to push that issue, but I'll talk to the commissioners and see.
Yeah. Might be a bar owner on that board who might be interested.
Be one, yeah.
So, and in all seriousness too, anytime that there's a new fee, in this case, how is it going to be collected? I mean, will that be onerous, or was that part of your consideration?
Yeah, it was discussed a lot. I
Okay.
think all it does is it adds to their normal taxation that they have to pay. They just tack that into that report, and away it goes.
You're nodding,
That's my
Cheryl, but that's
understanding.
not your department necessarily. But yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
though? Okay.
yeah, they change. Excuse me, they change the forms all the time. But yes, I'm sure that they'll make an exception for that.
Yeah, they'll find a way to get it. Believe me.
All right. So again, the 50 cent per drink would be earmarked for education about alcohol, DUI, and also the devices that monitor so that someone who's a repeat offender just can't get behind the wheel. Because there were plenty of concerns too.
Yep.
Good to know that it's still going to be left up to counties, too, to decide whether
Which
they want
was a
this.
major point of the bill.
Yes.
The state dictating everything drives me insane. So when it was permissive and it went to the counties to make the decision, it helps a lot.
Bert Gurr is our local lawmaker, Assemblyman in District 33, and he's here alongside Cheryl Paul, who's the Elko County Treasurer, as we're updating, kind of just getting a little bit of what the legislative session yielded. Oh, I did want to mention, as you said, this is going to be quite an opportunity on Sunday during the National Basque Festival. This is the 61st festival this year, Bert, and you were able to also observe something known as Basque Heritage Day.
Yes.
And that included someone who has written a book about local Basques, saying More Than Sheep Herders is the name of the book.
Yeah, it's a great book. I got a copy of it from him down in JT's when we were talking about all this stuff. But it's Jose Mejia Oleshe.
Perfect.
And he was a priest here, I guess, for a while. He's written, 20 some odd books. He's got a couple of them out on just the etchings, or not etchings, but the carvings on the aspen trees. He's got a lot out there. And I was able to, through our caucus leader in the Republican Party and at the pleasure of the Speaker of the House, we were able to present Jose not an actual proclamation, but a declaration honoring him and what he's done. And he's a professor, and he's done all these great things. So that was a great day in the Assembly, too.
Bert, thanks for the update. And O'Shea will be here in Elko, not only for the Basque Festival, but he has a book signing, a couple of them, in fact, at Anna Cabby's General Store. Anita Franzoya was able to contribute to his work on the book. And he's also going to be signing books at the Northeastern Nevada Museum because they're going to have copies in the bookstore or in the gift shop there. So
Good.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So that all ties in neatly to our National Basque Festival this weekend. Most of the events and activities take place at the Basque Clubhouse, which is open to everyone during this time. But the kickoff is Friday night, and that will be at Ogie Deli, downtown Elko. So always a fun time.
Always.
And always drink responsibly, right? So,
Always.
Always. Thank you, Bert. So that brings us to, again, the success of bills. Another one that you're really proud of is the, before we get to the AB, I don't have the number of the school bill. I was calling it just the school bill. It's an example of one that got morphed into something else, is it not?
Yes and no.
Okay.
My original bill number was 288, and it came out after AB 224 did, although we put them in timely. It was interesting how some parties' bills came out really early and some parties' bills came out a lot later. They're nonpartisan, obviously, but it came out weird. Anyway, the White Pine School group came together pretty well, and a legislator out of Las Vegas came up with the idea that I tried to work with the state treasurer, and he never returned my calls, but she got a bonding situation set up so that now they can bond for the construction up to $100 million, I think, in the bonds.
Which is what it cost.
Which is going to be right at it. Yeah. So it was a great thing, the way she did it, and I appreciated how she went about it. And so we didn't really morph it in. They just left mine off to the side because it was a $100 million appropriation, and I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. But she let me co-sign on her bill.
That's really generous.
So yeah, we worked together pretty well.
Please forgive me. So are you talking about some legislation that was accomplished, bipartisan legislation? Did you work with both sides? Okay, just making sure we're clear on that.
Well, both those bills, 375 and 288.
Yeah, because you said
worked with the Speaker of the House on one and Erica Mosca on the other.
Okay.
And, and Steve did do a good job for us. I mean, he really did. He held. There was one other bill that he held right to the last 5 minutes of the session, so I didn't have to testify in opposition to the Farm Workers' Bill of Rights. And he held it off because he knew of the opposition. And he did it for all of us in eastern Nevada. He really, truly did. So that helped. But I was able to work with him after I took off the tape that said I was Assemblyman, not member. I took that down because I was told my bills wouldn't get heard, so I did. And they just ignored my AB 240, the Fairness in Women's Sports Bill. And I didn't push that too hard because I knew where it was going to go. I watched the lieutenant governor, flaming up really bad. So I just kept my mouth shut and let it go. But we're coming back to that one, believe me.
That's a good, I wasn't necessarily going to talk about that just because, like you said, it sort of went down in flames or didn't go anywhere. But hasn't that been handled at the national level at this point, Bert?
Yes, to a large degree for colleges, but they're not working on high schools.
Okay.
So
even though the NIAA has already gone the way.
Yes, they went ahead and changed their position.
They did.
But as with everything else that isn't in law, the next administration here or there can change it if it's not in law. So we need to put it in code, in legal code, so that it can't be changed at the whim of whoever's in power. And I'm going to continue to push that so we can get it changed.
Okay.
In Nevada.
All right. Talking about, of course, the transgender women in fairness and sports bill that focused on transgender athletes, and that was, and obviously there'll be time to talk about that one again. Another couple of important ones. Oh, there it was, AB 288. We discussed the White Pine school districts. They're going to be able to build this school then, hopefully. The water bill, AB 190. That one was a disappointment. Right? It did not get passed, right? It would revise creating a fund for hydrological studies.
Yeah, it didn't even get a hearing.
Right. Because it had a price tag?
No, it just didn't get a hearing.
Okay.
There were several water bills, and mostly brought by Republicans in the Assembly, and Rich DeLong, the Assemblyman from Southwest Reno, had better bills than I did in there, and so I just said, okay, let's run Rich's and let it go, because if his get by, we'll probably be fine. So a lot of them that he ran did pass and got out of there. So it was just, these bills aren't about me. They're about getting the thing done.
Bert, Gurr, you set your ego aside during the, wow. I mean, all I'm saying, and Cheryl's kind of chuckling too because she sensed the sarcasm. Last time when we sat down, when you were a freshman, going into the assembly, it was very frustrating to you because it was hard to accomplish things. But it seems like you were able, the evidence is right here. You were able to accomplish a lot of things in this session, comparatively, despite being
outnumbered considerably.
Right, considerably.
But if you go down there with your ego out and think you're going to get something done, you might as well stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Your ego, it has nothing to do with it. These bills, and why I took my ribbon off that said I was an assemblyman and didn't argue over 240 is because these bills that I presented weren't about me. They were people that I represented bills, and that's what we got to get past. If I wanted to hang on and keep that assemblyman tag on there, none of these bills would have gotten heard. And seriously, within days of me taking that off, the speaker called me in for this bill. So it makes a difference, and take your ego out of the whole thing and go in there and do the work you got hired to do.
I just wanted to mention or make it clear for people listening that wonder about the name tag is that early on in the session, something lawmakers did achieve was to change the title from Assemblyman to Assemblymember. And there is, frankly, a majority of female lawmakers in the session. I understand it was done to reflect that. There were some holdouts, and as you mentioned, you saw through that and saw a better way to achieve.
Can I clarify that a little bit?
Please do. That's why you're here.
It wasn't the legislators who did it. It was the Democrat Party.
Okay.
It wasn't done bilaterally. It wasn't done where we all got involved in it, and there was no discussion. They just decided.
Okay.
Even before the session started, because all of our paperwork, everything that we had was all already changed without any input from our side. So when a certain senator, who I won't name, but he's from Reno, he looked up the definition of member in the dictionary, and that lit a whole lot of people up. If you go look at it, the first definition, that'll explain the whole thing, and that's what upset a lot of women. And actually, it was the Republican women in there who started changing it. It wasn't the guys. And so they tried to pass, and it was against the law. What they did is against the law. The law says, the Constitution or the law, somewhere in there says it, assemblyman and assemblywoman. Not member anywhere. They did this without any backing. So they tried to pass a resolution at 10 minutes to 12 on the last night to put it into law. And that's where that certain senator from Reno went into a, what do you call them, where they just talk for hours?
A filibuster?
He filibustered the Senate and killed a bunch of bills right there in the last 10 minutes, or 15 or 20, whatever it was, when they supposedly locked the lieutenant governor out.
Oh, boy.
There was a lot of stuff going on in that last 30 minutes.
Well, it sounds like I'm going to have you back on for another 30 minutes just to talk about some of these stories.
Yeah, it looks like I ran over. Sorry.
No, you're fine. And there is one more topic. But I do want to make it clear because it's important to be accurate. So is it a law or is it a suggestion? Are you assemblyman or are you assemblymember?
Assemblyman.
Okay.
Member's gone.
Member is gone.
Yep.
Thank you because I still see it both ways now. So
and it will be for a while, but it's assemblyman, assemblywoman. When it first got changed to woman, there was probably 2 or 3 women in the whole legislature at that point, maybe 5. But they went ahead and changed it to woman to be appropriate. So when they went to member, that just, if you wanted to call us in the House representatives, it would have made a lot more sense than members, especially if you look up the definition.
So more to come on that. It sounds like what you're saying. But for now, we're just going to go with, because it's not a law. So you are Assemblyman Bert Gurr.
Yes.
In respect to you and your position. Thank you. And that's where that is. Thanks for explaining the story. So the last thing that, and this one's hard because we have been rooting for this for years now, AB 100, and we know it had a price tag attached, but this has to do with rural airports to receive equitable funding.
Yeah, that one had a pretty huge price tag on it, and knowing right away it wasn't going to go, I just kind of cruised through. But the Nevada Aviation Association tried to run another bill. I think it was 280. Let me see where it is.
It's on your
293.
list. Okay, thank you.
And it was sponsored. They had a friend of mine out of Fallon as the sponsor on it. So this can be a real long story, but I'll cut it and we can go into it next time because we're running out of time. Long story short, we morphed my bill into his bill, and it was a structural bill to set it all up so we could do it and get it out of GOAD and put it in the Nevada Department of Transportation where it belonged, which they already have set up. So all it had to do, they didn't have to hire anybody, do anything. But because of the money involved, I took the $10 million out once by amendment. Took them 3 weeks to get around to even thinking about hearing it. And I'm not even sure they actually heard it with that. But then there was still $2 million in it, and they wouldn't even talk about it. On the second to last day, we were still working the bill, and it finally just ran out of time.
I know you worked hard with the local Flight Alliance of Northeast Nevada. That's our local contingent. Our Elko Regional Airport Manager, Jim Foster, he has said nothing but how much he appreciates your effort on this. Do you think it'll come back, Bert?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I know for sure if I come back, it comes back.
Local lawmaker Bert Gurr in Assemblyman, District 33. And again, the governor signed more than a fifth of the 300 bills. He did veto 68. 243 were signed into law.
87.
87? Oh, I must be looking at something that's old. Thank you. Thank you, yes. 87. So he bested his existing record. Yes, yes.
So now he's up to like 163, I guess.
Oh, my gosh.
2 sessions.
See how? Yes, a total 2 sessions.
Yeah.
So, but we wanted to focus on Bert's performance. Again, I know you will come back. You passed out 2 of your original bills. There were others that you signed on to that also found support, got signed by the governor. Oh, here it is. 87 proposals, 48 had support from at least one Republican. So that's interesting. The reason we kind of break this down, and I want to thank the Elko Independent, the Nevada Independent, that just sent me way back. The Nevada Independent, thank you, John Ralston and his team. They have all the hard lifting. But the number of bills that get signed, and it's important because not only is it about the bill and its impact on the state and the communities, but it also, we learn about the internal relationships. And this has kind of been a theme in our discussion, Bert, is that it requires approval from lawmakers, and especially in your case on both sides. So it sounds as though, as you said, if you are sent back to the session, you're going to have some relationships.
Very much so, yeah. Yeah, if you exist more than one session down there and don't develop relationships, you probably shouldn't go back for a third time.
So thank you, Bert. I know you'll come back. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that's on your list of items? Because I know we ran over, but at the same time.
There was one other bill that got passed. It was a public utilities simplification bill. It for smaller public utilities, it simplified their paperwork. It came to me in the late session, 449 is the bill number, and it was actually given to me by the caucus leader, and ran the bill, and it had great support, ran all the way through, no glitches, no problems, just sailed right on through, but it was late. And it didn't have any trouble at all. Simplifies small public utilities and what they have to file, and in the interest of simplifying government, it made sense.
For utilities such as Wells Rural Electric Company, perhaps? Or is there an example?
That would be, maybe not Wells Rural, because it's not a small utility.
It's a co-op, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, like little water companies, little private sewer companies, stuff like that. They have them more in the south than they do up here.
Okay.
I think in Pahrump there's at least 2 that are that size.
But maybe what that illustrates is what we were talking about too, Bert, is that you had the trust of your fellow lawmakers. They didn't have to just reject it or really dive into it. They just said, if Bert says it's good, it's good.
Short sessions on all of those hearings. They didn't last very long.
All right.
Which is always a pleasure.
Bert Gurr, our local lawmaker, Assemblyman in District 33. He is a Republican, and he's alongside Cheryl Paul from the Elko County Treasurer's Office. It was great to get an update with you today. I think it is significant to note, again, with all the legislation that you worked on during this session, you had the same time to work on the bills as our senator, our state senator, John Ellison. John Ellison, who we did not invite to this program, obviously, today, but our senator had 0 bills passed during the session. There's only one other senator that had 0 bills passed, and that was Carrie Buck. And even though being a Republican, you were able to accomplish a number of things on behalf of voters, Bert, so.
I was very fortunate to have groups like Cheryl's bring me good bills that I could work on and get done, and I appreciate what they did for me. I really do.
And we very much appreciate you.
Cheryl, thanks for bringing our local lawmaker to the radio show today.
You bet.
All right.
I'll have to come back.
Yes, we'll catch up again next time.
It'll be fun.
Yes, thank you. And have fun at the Basque Festival. It's going to be great on Sunday, so.
Yeah.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Again, a little over in time, but we appreciate your attention. Thank you for joining us for Elko Live.